As you're watching this video, Europe squares off against Russia in a covert war that would make Sherlock Holmes raise an eyebrow. Step into the shadows of geopolitical warfare, where Europe fights tooth and nail to safeguard its cherished neutrality from the relentless advances of Russia. On this adrenaline-fueled journey, we'll unravel the web of espionage, unveil the hidden agendas, and expose the cat and mouse game that could change the face of Europe forever. Because in this thrilling expedition, we expose the raw truth behind Europe's gripping dilemma, whether to safeguard its own survival at the expense of its cherished neutrality, or to stand firm on its principles, even if it means dancing on the edge of a diplomatic precipice.
Europe has principles? Well, let's just ask its colonies what they think.
Hang on there, Chrono. I'm the one telling the story here, my hootin' mate. Since the end of World War II, Europe has claimed to maintain itself as a neutral party in conflicts and stands by that. However, the recent Ukraine conflict is making it all the more difficult. Countries such as Finland and Sweden are being pulled apart like your pets fighting over treats. The defense measures need to be taken seriously all over again, like it was in the 40s. Today, Europe's dilemma is about how it can guard its neutrality in the face of the big angry bear. But wait, I hear you say, how the hell did we get here? Well, it all started back when World War I ended and left Europe as the world's biggest crater. Like, end of the dinosaurs big. The Treaty of Versailles ended the war, but the conditions made the next one pretty inevitable.
You'd think they'd double-check after the chaos they had to escape from. Well, I guess not.
Well, we're not all as smart as you now, are we, Chrono? Tensions rose, and despite war breaking out, some countries clung to the principle, I'm doing the inverted air commas with my fingers thing, of neutrality. Take for instance Switzerland. They declared their neutrality back in 1815 and stuck to it since.
It's made them very, very rich too. Scrooge McDuck rich. If you ever needed an incentive, well, it's right here.
After the war ended, the shadow of the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the Western powers loomed over the continent. Through it all, the Swiss neutrality model was followed by others like Finland and Sweden as well. If you're wondering why Europe turned away from colonizing and enslaving native people, it's not because they're just nice like that. It's because peace was found to be more productive. Think about it. It helps bridge gaps, bring stability, and avoids costly military entanglements. Turns out, it's a lot easier to work on yourself if your legs are not being chewed down from underneath you.
I think you're giving too much credit to the government and not enough to the people.
Okay, well, yeah, you're probably right, Chrono. There are a lot of ways the average citizen is doing their part to hold on to neutrality. Unlike Russia, which is about as democratic as Regina George's Mean Girls, most European states are democratic, so an individual's role is more pivotal. Or at least that's what they tell us. Remember kids, neutrality is a-okay.
Yeah, but when you have a big heavy bear breathing down your neck, how far can it take you?
Okay, you're right, Chrono. Russia is getting a little too big for its boots. Covert action has always been used to further state objectives. Assassinations, misinformation campaigns, proxy wars, and other clandestine activities are all part of Russia's incredibly long resume.
Wait, I thought we're talking about the CIA.
I know it might sound like them, Chrono, but it's not. We can't have two of them doing it all, can we? Point is, Russia wants more influence in the area. It wants to consolidate its power and destabilize NATO, and protect Russian-speaking countries. It wants its buddies to run things. To achieve those, it stoops to all the nasty things like we talked about.
How dare they do what the USA has been doing for decades? That's preposterous.
I know, right? Russia is also using its energy resource to hold Europe hostage. Russia provides Europe with most of its energy. When that stalls, Europe stops. It's no coincidence that energy prices have risen dramatically over the months since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It was all a well-thought-out plan.
Damn, extorting countries through economic pressure? Where have I heard that one before?
You want to be careful, Chrono. You're sounding very Russian at the moment. The Russian invasion has also pressured European countries in a different way. There has been an influx of refugees from Ukraine flooding in from war-torn areas. As the invasion drags on, more and more people are expected to be left without homes and care.
The situation seems pretty bad. You ever notice that it's never the politicians escaping on rafts and hitching right home? It's always the average Joe. Very strange.
One of the countries threatened by Russian aggression is Finland. Finland declared its independence from Russia in 1917 after the Russian Revolution. Despite being invaded by the Ruskies during World War II, it eventually regained its neutrality.
Talk about tightroping over a flaming bit of snakes.
I know, right? Russia hasn't made it easier, however. Russia uses its energy resources to gain leverage over Finland and exerts pressure. They also carry out huge disinformation campaigns to create division.
So what? They make memes where Russia is the Chad and Europe the Virgin? Big deal.
No, it's a little worse than that, Chrono. Due to the attacks, Finland has been forced to overhaul its measures. This includes increased vigilance and security measures. This has also pushed Finland towards joining NATO and going back on its neutral stance, as per Al Jazeera, 2023.
That kind of backfired, didn't it?
Let's look at another country in a similar situation for a second. Sweden. The country has had a long history of neutrality, dating back to the 19th century. This was solidified in the Cold War when it refused to take sides and promoted diplomacy and cooperation.
Hard to think that Vikings would eventually become a voice of reason in the future. That's grade A character development right there.
Well, maybe we should get some of that for you, Chrono. But things aren't so simple. Russia has made moves to undermine Sweden and get it on its side.
Sort of like that creepy guy at the bar, trying to woo you and spikes your drink if you refuse.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyway, the Baltic Sea region has been a clear focus for Russia. Moscow needs a port that connects it to the Western waters, and it cites the Baltic Sea as the way to go. As such, Russia is trying to limit Sweden's cooperation with NATO.
Wait, so if Sweden was cooperating with NATO, then how can it be neutral?
So, just shut up, Chrono. Russia is waging an information war on Sweden. Through its state-controlled media, it's sending out disinformation campaigns to attack Swedish peace and neutrality. The events of Ukraine were the turning point, however. While Sweden has been a partner state of NATO since 1994, it's now joined as a full-time member, as per Chatterjee in 2022.
It seems Russia has a minus 100% chance of success in this kind of thing. Maybe they should just give up on world domination and start dominating something else, like the vodka industry or pirating video games.
If they did, we'd probably all like them a lot more. Times are tense and Europe has had to reform its playbook. Failing to maintain neutrality can lead to vulnerability. The democratic processes might go woo, so they have to make decisions and take strong measures. Measures such as cozying up to the other side.
You're right. What better way to protect neutrality than throw it out the window? Am I hearing you right? Seems to me as if you jump on the fence long enough, you'll get impaled on it.
That's a pretty graphic example, Chrono, but yeah, you are right. To protect themselves, the European states are now building alliances with each other and NATO. They're now implementing better defensive measures and engaging on joint exercises to share information and protect each other. A common focus point today is media literacy. It isn't enough that people know information, they need to analyze it and decipher it as well. Disinformation attacks people's ignorance, so that's what the European powers are working on. Make people smarter so they don't get fooled by pretty words and pictures, essentially.
So, how does an average Joe like me play into this?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Average Chrono, though I'm not sure a talking owl can be called average. It's important to be vigilant and stand together against the bully. After all, Russia is more powerful than the smaller nations of Europe. If you can't beat them to a punch, make friends and gang up. There are many charities working to help Finland, Sweden, and Ukraine make a tangible impact against Russian aggression. The Red Cross is taking donations of food, water, and warm clothes for everyone affected. Raising awareness is also an important step. There's not really any point in protecting neutrality if you don't know what it's all about, right? Lastly, peaceful protests and diplomatic solutions are the only way forward.
Tell that to Russia.
Yeah, but look at how it's worked out for them, Chrono. Pushing countries to the brink tends to make them wary of you. Who would have thought?
Sure, we could all stand by each other hand in hand. But what about more practical stuff? Measures?
Well, to strike back and defend against covert action, Europe needs a unified front. They need to join up and encourage increased cooperation in counterintelligence efforts. Plus, strengthening the military is also a good move. Like in the past, it doesn't matter if Sweden and Finland are neutral, if Russia itself isn't. Economic support is also vital. Russia supplies Europe with a bulk of its energy, so now European states need to work together to support each other economically too.
How's that working out so far?
Well, it has its own hurdles. Hey, whose side are you on anyway?
I'm just saying.
Look, citizen awareness has its place in the struggle too. Conflict is complex, and there is more to it than one state or person would tell you. As such, we have a responsibility of self-education. Social platforms are great for that, but they can also be used to reach out and advocate for rights and neutrality. All of these are just the tip of the iceberg. There's more than one way out of this mess, that's for sure.
That all sounds pretty bad. I mean, we're kind of on the brink of war, all things considered. Guarding neutrality might as well be guarding the past.
Maybe, Chrono. But there's enough here to protect. Europe has struggled to maintain its neutrality since the 19th century. There have been wars fought and lives lost over it, and yet it's still survived.
Yeah, like a zombie.
The point is, we made it this far and we can make it. There is now more pressure than ever exerted on European nations to either suffocate under Russian aggression or do away with neutrality. We must focus on collective defense and solidarity to protect what's left. A one-on-one fight with a bear will likely end up with your death. Acting smart is how we overcome this.
So it's up to us, you mean?
Well, yeah, somewhat. We all have a role to play. Citizen engagement and peaceful protests have all shown that they are effective. Perhaps that's the only way Russian aggression can be halted. That remains to be seen, however. Today, like all times, the world has stood on the precipice before. What we do now will dictate our future.